Welcome to Powerboat Talk, the podcast where we talk everything performance boats with your host, Joe Rode.
Welcome to Powerboat Talk. This episode is brought to you by Freedom and Fuel clothing brand, made for people who love big horsepower, fuel-burning engines. It doesn't matter if you're into hot rods, off-road, side-by-sides, or of course, fast boats. Freedom and Fuel has the gear to match your passion for power and performance. You can find Freedom and Fuel clothing at all ADBA and NJBA drag boat races at the SoCal Jet Boats trailer or online at freedomandfuel.com. Hello, welcome to Powerboat Talk. Today I have offshore racer Billy Moore. Billy is also with Caldwell Marine Designs. He doesn't have a title, but he does a lot of stuff with the technical aspects of the boat, customer service on the performance end. He does a lot of the testing, and so hey, Billy, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. I'm looking forward to our podcast. I think it'd be good.
Yeah, I was telling you before we started. You know, my crowd tends. I'm a California guy, so I tend to do a lot more of the California guys. Although I like the diversity. I really, because I like fast boats no matter what they are. But I saw you on another podcast, and I just you're a really cool, down to earth guy, and I like the fact that you're involved with Caldwell. And we'll talk about it later. But Caldwell actually owns some of the Checkmate molds, and so you guys are producing Checkmate boats. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But
yes, sir.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I mean, you had a really good weekend at the Sheboygan race. Billy's a throttle man for a Class 1 Defalco Class 1 boat, and you guys won both days, first wins of the season. That had to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we had some bum luck in Cocoa Beach. We were in the lead and had an issue and had to, pull off early. And then actually in the lake race 1, we were in the lead and had an engine issue. And not knocking Mercury, I mean, the engine was basically failing, but it's one of those things. Anybody builds an engine, you're going to have a failure here and there. And I think it was just one of those things. It was our engine from last year in the Falco team when we had the other boat. And long story short, we're not nice to the engines. I mean, when we start them up, they idle out, they get on plane. When they throw the green flag, it's just hold it flat out until either we get the checker flag or something happens and there's a crash or the engine blows up, whatever, or a prop fails or anything fails. I mean, it's not a life that a lot of people think, most engines live for 100 hours, 400 hours, whatever. These are just engines that we literally go beat up on. And Mercury does a great job just giving us a good product. And like I said, it doesn't matter who builds it. You're going to have a failure here and there. But we've had real good luck, and the fresh that we put in for Sheboygan, we did a little testing at home because we had some issues with water pressure spikes that were getting really high. So we did some testing before we went up there. And plus with fresh engines, it's always nice to just run through everything, check everything, and went up there and had a really good weekend with the Class 1 boat. Also throttle Super Cat. Team Graydel, CJ Grant Racing, they're based out of Canada. Had a pretty good run with them. I went a little short on propeller thinking we were starting outside lane. And when we got around the first turn, I was like, man, we're a little too short. We actually got a decent start. And we ended up finishing third out of 8 boats in Super Cat class. So I can't complain there. All in all, 2 wins and a 3rd place. I can't complain. Life's good.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you mean by the you went a little short on the propeller?
Well, in the race world, we have multiple propellers for different sea conditions, different length courses and stuff like that. And, like in the Super Cat class, we run anywhere from say a 35 pitch to a 29 pitch, depending on the course, the sea state. And this course, it had one long straightaway. It was pretty calm. It was actually a little more swell when I was out in the Class 1 boat, and I was anticipating the swell still to be out there, but it laid out a little calmer. So I dropped down like a pitch and a half to give it more snap off the corner, but we were lacking a little bit on the end of the straightaway. And let's face it, like I said, I thought we were outside lane. We were going to be in the wash. We were going to have all kinds of boats traffic to get around, and we went the shorter route so it had more punch. And we had all the punch off the corner, but we just lacked it. Once we got halfway down the straightaway, we were already at whatever max speed we were going to get. So,
Gotcha.
At that point, we just run the shortest course, buoy to buoy to buoy, and hope for the best and push.
Got it. I know, the rules kind of have everybody pretty tightly bunched up with, trying to keep the racing, tighter and affordable. But I know setup's a big deal. Propeller, obviously, just like you said, propeller choice is a big deal. But I never thought about the position on the course, how that makes a difference too. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're on the inside lane and you can get to the turn and you're not crowded by everybody and you can dictate, how tight you actually have to turn, which you do. If you're on the inside, these guys are coming. So you got to just try, get it in there, crack it in tight and try and stay tight. And then you can kind of get away with a little more because you have more of a free shot, free open track. And if nobody's in front of you, you're not dealing with the boat wakes and the whitewash. It's just easier. But knowing that we were second from the outside, it's, like I said, in my past experience, sometimes you get bundled up in the first turn where everybody pushes out and you get pushed farther out. And if you get behind everybody in the whitewash, you're dealing with the wakes, the whitewater, which is foamed up, so you don't really get going as fast. And the boat, because you're crossing the wakes, rooster tails and stuff like that, you can't trim the boat out and air it out as quick because you're having to fight all that stuff. So we elected to go short, and like I said, as soon as we come off the first turn, I was like, I was bummed. I was like, sorry, guys, I screwed this one up, but that's part of it.
Yeah, because I mean, right, you do the best you can. Like you said, you got a lot of experience, but man, you just, it's still, what's the percentage? It's still guess, right? Still luck, right?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like every dog has its day. Some days you're the windshield, some days you're the bug. It just all depends on which side of that spectrum you're on that morning or whatever. But no, I mean, Sheboygan was great town. The people are just phenomenal there. The town was, great. Everybody's happy to see us there. Everybody's happy to be there. Great crowd. Weather was beautiful. Wasn't super hot or nothing. It was actually really enjoyable.
Yeah, it looks like a really cool event. I mean, I think this is the second year they've had it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
cool.
sir.
And then the water pressure thing. So I guess on a boat going that fast, right? You're picking up. You've got external pickups, right? So you just build.
Yes, sir.
You just build too much pressure with those pickups, and then what do? Blow it off, or how's that work? It's interesting.
Yeah, what we found over the years with the turbo engine from Mercury, they require a lot of water early because they're making the power and the boost, and it generates a lot of heat. The problem is to get the water in the boat early enough, and then once you get up to the speeds that we're running, now there's so much water coming in, it builds up too much pressure, and there's some hoses on the bottom of the engines that are kind of a bear to get to. And they're rubber hoses. They're good quality hoses, but with hose clamps. But we had a couple pressure spikes, 89, 80 PSI, and there's not much that's going to stay on with that kind of pressure spike. And it's a pulse. It's like you're beating it with a hammer, so to speak, that water just coming in. So we have on top of the sea strainer, which we run a big sea strainer, so it's a volume thing. But on our sea strainer, we had a pressure relief valve that wasn't flowing enough early, and it would just almost balloon where once the pressure got up, it took too long to try and relieve it. And then the engine's taking the brunt of the pressure spike. So we got back from Lotto, analyzed the data from the logger, saw we had an issue, took the pressure valve off, looked at it, took it apart, and went a different route, something that was more free flowing. And we actually tried a couple different things, just testing here at home in North Carolina. We put the boat in the water, and it's not down the straightaways we were seeing it. It's when you go into like the little 45-degree sweep and turn, and you're running really fast. I mean, we were running, I think at Lake Race down the straight, especially the back straightaway, I think it was like 145 to 148-ish. And you go into the sweeper, we're not letting off. And you drag that sponson in just enough to where that pickup is a major scoop.
I gotcha.
And it's not aerated as much as when the boat's aired out, so to speak. And it just it's a big funnel. And we knew we had an issue there. So before we let it bite us, at another event, we revamped some of the water system, changed a few things, tested it, tried a couple different ways, and had it where we were pretty happy um, that, with the data we were seeing when we'd go make some runs, speed runs, and give it a little, turn input, we weren't seeing the big spikes. We dropped it down below 50. So we were like, all right, it will live at that. So, I mean, there's always more room for more improvement, but it was 100 times better than what it was.
Yeah, interesting. But example of on a race boat, man, from day to day, boat to boat, you just never know, right? You think you got it, you think you nail the setup, and you think you know what you're doing, and man, the gremlins.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like right now, we got back on Tuesday with everything. The boys have the engines out, going over every nut and bolt on the engines. They're going through the drive systems. We got the rudder off, checking all that stuff. Checking the mounting hardware. Because as hard as we're running these things now and running them into the turn, I mean, and just the beating that they take, it's I'd rather be proactive than reactive, because being reactive, it's bad, because when you have the issue, you've already spent the money to be there. You're already there. If something goofy happens and you have a failure while we're testing, it's not the end of the world. We'd rather it fail while we're testing at home. Plus, not everybody sees it. Not everybody knows about it. So it's not as embarrassing. But, you know, we try to be as proactive as we can. So like I said, guys have the engines out, checking everything, to change the oil, change spark plugs, check all the hoses, check all the bolts, and we'll put everything back together. And probably next week we won't test it, but the following week we'll set up our own course to mimic Sarasota, and we'll probably end up down around Oriental, North Carolina, which is closer to my house, on the Neuse River and Pamlico Sound. It's a little more open there, so we'll get like a swell or a sea state that we won't always get right here on the Pamlico River in Washington. And Sarasota, it's usually not flat, but it's usually not super rough. But it's one of those things, everybody thinks Sarasota's flat. It's never a flat, calm race course, it seems like. So we try to mimic where we're going and just go run everything, see what propeller, what gear ratio, what weight balance seems to work the best before we get there.
Gotcha. So last year was a little bit of a struggle. I guess you didn't win any races, but you guys also swapped boats over the off season, correct? You went from an outer limits to a victory.
Yes, sir.
I mean, was the outer limits you were just at the limit with it? Was it just wasn't getting it done, or were you just trying to step up?
Well, we had plans to do a lot of work to it in the off season, and I spoke to Mike about it, and this boat was available, the Victory. I've raced that boat before here in the States. I've run it a few times overseas, and it was one of those things. I knew the boat, and like I told him, if we redo a lot of the stuff on the outer limits, I'm not going to say it's not going to be a superstar, but I can't guarantee it. And it was one of those things. If we get this Victory, we can redo some stuff in the dash so it's, a little more comfortable, because me and Mike are bigger guys. So we basically moved the dashes a lot farther forward just to give us more space in there. If there was an accident, we have to go out the escape hatch. Just freeze it up, and it you don't feel as claustrophobic inside the cockpit itself. But like I told him, I've run it with 930 horse. I've run it with 1,700 horse. I know about where the boat would be with 1,100s as far as setup and things to do and all that kind of stuff. So we just went that route because it cost more money to do that, but it was, I hate to say quicker or easier, but it kind of was quicker and easier to just go that route. And like I said, I know the boat, I've run it, raced it. So it was just one of those things. He pulled the trigger on it, and we got it to the shop, and it was like, all right, what do we want to change to make it better suited for Mike and myself? So it seemed, obviously it seemed to work. We did do a bunch of testing just before the season started, and I think that made a big difference. It got Mike really confident on the wheel, how hard he can turn it. and it gave me the confidence how hard we can go in speed wise and still be able to make it out of the turn, go in and be able to carry it through and all that stuff. So I think it was a good move for the team, great move for us just in general. And the confidence level right now is really good after Sheboygan. That definitely helps. I mean, we had some bum luck at the beginning of the season, and that's part of it. But, at the end of the day, there's nothing like coming home with a win and a checkered. I mean, it always makes you smile a little better and, gives you a little more confidence.
Mm-hmm. But you feel good though, like that was definitely the right choice. And when no surprises when you got the boat, it was kind of as performed as you kind of remembered.
Yes, and that was the thing. The first test we did with it, we had a few expectations of what we wanted it to run, and it met those right away.
Oh, nice.
Like basically the first pass, and then it was like, all right, let's crank this thing through a turn. And the first turn, it was like, all right, can we go more? I said, yeah, you can go a lot more. Turned it, and then it was like, what's that feeling I'm getting in the back end of the boat? I said, we're turning it hard enough, we're flexing the rudder.
Wow. Wow.
And we had one of our old rudders on it from the old Class 1 days where we were running 930 horse, naturally aspirated. We actually bent the rudder testing, cranking it in so hard, which, like I told Mike, we're only going to do that so many times without it, trying to get away from us. But, hey, you got to push the limit, and not saying that you want to go out and roll it over in a turn in practice session or something, but, you got to find where you can get away with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Even if you're at a point where you're a little uncomfortable, I mean, there's going to be times where you need that, right? You're going to be in a race and you're like, I gotta have this one turn. I'm just going to hang it out there a little more than so it's nice you have the confidence to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said, if it doesn't get a little sketchy every once in a while, you're not going hard enough. You're not going fast enough.
I have a feeling you guys, man, in those boats, it's got to be sketchy. Well, for the rest of us in the real world, it's got to be mostly sketchy.
Oh yeah, it is. And it's funny because like Mike is really laid back in the boat and he's always like, go, 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 push, push, push. And even with Chris Grant in the Graydel boat, Chris has never told me to slow up. He's like, hey, and I've said it to him. I said, either you're really trusting in me or you just don't know no better. And it's always a laughing thing. He's like, hey man, you're going to take me wherever you feel comfortable. I'm comfortable with you taking me there. So, and I hate to say, like, both guys are just so easy in the boat. They're confident that, they understand it's racing. Things can happen, but at the same time, they know we're pushing and they're confident that we can get through whatever comes our way.
And it has to be nice. I mean, you actually have the owner in the boat, right? So he's the guy that gets to make the decisions and that's not on you.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. The Ozarks, when we had the engine starting to go down, I said, Mike, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay out and get points, or do you want to pull it off? And he kind of chuckled. He goes, we already spent the money. Stay out and get points. I'm like, I mean, in reality, it probably cost a little bit more, but it wasn't that much more. I mean, the damage was already done, and that's the way he looked at it. He's like, let's just stay out and get points. We already spent the money.
Right. But you didn't have to make that call.
No, I put it on him. Hey, boss, what do you want to do with this thing? It's done, but we can try and limp it around and stay out and get some points, or pull it off. He goes, money's already spent, stay out.
Yeah, okay. Nice. Yeah, that's a nice luxury for you in this situation.
Oh, for sure.
I didn't think as a throttle guy too. I mean, God, you've been doing this for years. I mean, have you had those drivers that are just like you're pushing them and they're just slow down? They're just
I've had it in the past. Most of the guys, they have the trust in you and the faith. But I've had a guy years ago that, he'd been in enough boats, and I think he was at a point in his life. He was like, I want to push, but I don't want to step over the line that far. And I'll admit, sometimes I'm guilty of stepping over that line a little bit too far. In my younger years, now I try not to as much, just because, you get older and hopefully a little wiser.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, maybe just answer the question there. I mean, what makes you so good? Why are you so good at this?
I don't know about if I'm good. It's just, I grew up at my dad's old shop when we were in Miami, and my dad, he'd been racing boats forever, and he actually started the throttle man position way, way back. And just being around the race boats, the races, and just performance boats in general. I mean, I don't want to say that makes me better than the next guy. I think it just gives me a lot more experience at certain things. Because a lot of these guys we're racing are really good, and it's just, I think it comes down sometimes to the experience and how much you are willing to hang it out there, so to speak. But I learned a lot from my dad and just being around the shop and working on them, setting them up, testing on them. And I think also being on the mechanical side of the boat process, building, assembling, taking apart, finding what failed, what broke, what didn't broke. I think you learn a lot on trying to keep the boat going and keep the momentum in the boat and not just terrorizing the boat where it's just beat up every time and it's a struggle to finish because you beat the boat up too early on in the race, so to speak. And I credit that just being around my dad's shop. So I think that's helped me a lot just in over the years.
Gotcha. Now, I didn't, and I don't know this, but it sounds like you actually maintain the Defalco boat. You keep it at your place, and
We actually have a little shop here in Washington, North Carolina. It's literally 2 minutes away from the Caldwell shop. And we have a full-time crew. I got 3 guys over there. The one guy, Rolf, I've known for years. He worked with me on guitar team. So I've known him for years, probably 20 something years. And he's got a lot of experience. And then TJ, he does a lot of our electrical stuff. And Will, he's younger guy learning how to work on this stuff. He helps us around the shop. Real good guy. He's always on the chase boat when we go test. He's always watching. He's always learning. And, they have him involved when we're pulling engine, changing drives, and changing ratios. So it helps having that equipment right here. Because like when we were testing the water pressure stuff, I'd say, guys, I want to test this afternoon. Yes, sir. We're ready. Run over there, drag it to the water 10 minutes away, throw it in, make a couple passes, go back. Hey, let's change this, this, and that. And they would change everything in the morning, and then mid-afternoon, go run it, try it. That worked. It helped. Let's try this. And I mean, you could do so much in a short span because everything's right here, and Washington, North Carolina is a unique place. There's fountain power boats and, all that stuff. It's such a base of boat building in general, and the water being right here, pretty much anything we need is we can get local. Certain things you have to get in, but the nice thing with NASCAR World being around Charlotte and, Mooresville, Statesville, North Carolina area, like if we need fittings or anything, 9 times out of 10, we can get them the next day. And we're not air freighting stuff in. So it helps a lot being based in North Carolina. And, there's a lot of water here. And like I said, testing in the Pamlico River, it works out really well and it's quick and easy. And if we want to go test where it's a little more bumpy, we just go out towards my house down towards the Neuse River in Oriental, North Carolina, and just go put it in the water there. Same thing. And the nice thing, it's not like you're in Miami or Los Angeles where there's a ton of boat traffic, bunch of people get upset because you're flying around in these things and the noise and all that. Let's face it, North Carolina, rednecks, they love the speed, they love the noise. So it's almost like they welcome us with open arms.
Yeah. I was wondering when you said earlier, yeah, we set up the course like Key West, and I'm like, wow, okay, you can get away with that there, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean, and we wouldn't do something like that if it's summertime. We try not to run too much on the weekend, just because there are people out on the water. But it's big enough area, we can go away from everybody and just set up our own thing and just kind of get away, and nobody bothers you. And we don't have Marine Patrol, or Coast Guard up us saying, hey, you're too close or nothing. We try to be mindful of all that stuff anyway. But most time during the week, we run out a lot of times right behind Reggie's house. And Reggie's always giving me a call. Hey, the boat looked good. It looked great. It looked fat. It's carrying real well. I mean,
That's
Reggie
funny.
still loves this stuff.
That's funny. Yeah, man, what a great luxury though. What a great luxury. And I was in the hot rod industry for years, and a bunch of guys I knew moved their shops to North Carolina, and they said that they were like, it's so cool because where we lived in wherever they were like we were like the jerk hot rod guys. We come to North Carolina and they think we're all NASCAR teams. So man, they roll out the red carpet. They do everything for us. We get one off laser cut. It's really cool. So I kind of forgot about that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And, it's kind of comical because the first time we went to Oriental, it's kind of it's on the intercoastal, so to speak, with, the East Coast of the United States, but it's more of a sailboat capital kind of thing. And there's a lot of sailboats there, but I know a lot of people there. And when we showed up with the race boat, they're like, why in the world would you bring it here? I said, well, it's convenient because it is more open. The mouth of the Neuse River right there is probably 4 to 5 miles wide, and then it opens up to Pamlico Sound. So you get more of a sea state than what we would get right here in Washington. And the Pamlico River gets really big if you go down towards Belhaven, but there's not a real good ramp to put the boat in. So it's just easier to just drag it down to the other end, down towards Oriental. Nice big ramp. And we're blessed with the tilt trailer to haul everything to the races and the event. And we have a flat aluminum trailer for when we want to go test. We just go ramp it and dunk it. So it makes it a lot easier to do that kind of stuff.
Nice. Very cool. So you mentioned your dad, and I don't know how many most people know about your dad, Bobby Moore, and I remember in the old, from selling parts in the old days, like he was the guy for rigging too, right? Wasn't he doing most of the big teams? And I think he did all Reggie stuff, right, early on.
He did a lot of stuff with Reggie, years ago, and then for a while Reggie did a lot of his own stuff at the factory, but we did a lot of big teams. We did a lot of stuff for performance boats, we did a lot of stuff with Skater. We do some stuff, one-off stuff for Cigarette. So pretty much our background was all either race boats or high performance boats. And it worked out really good. We were on 188th Street down in South Florida. So, I mean, it was kind of like the epicenter of high performance back then. And yeah, my dad did the racing. He did the rigging, so like I said, I kind of learned a lot from him just watching everything and growing up there and being around it and, being able to hang on to the steering wheel for him sometimes when he wanted to go test something. I mean, I said it on the one podcast. They were like, what do you remember the most? And I was probably like 14 and we were testing a 40 skater and my dad was like, son, are you scared? I'm like, no, Dad, I'm not scared. He goes, son, you're probably too stupid to be scared. And I have to actually tell myself that sometimes, like, don't be too stupid to be scared. So, and it's actually kind of funny because when he said that, I was like, what in the world he's talking about? But it stuck in my head. And as I got older, I realized sometimes you do need to okay, we're going pretty fast here. We need to be a little bit scared. You got to respect what you're doing.
Yeah. So those early days is the I don't know, the test dummy or the crash test dummy with your dad, man. I mean, is that when you decided I need to be a throttle guy instead of a driver?
I mean, I drove for my dad, of course. I drove with Randy Sism a couple times down in Key West in 99, 2000. And, I don't know. I just kind of got moved into the throttle man seat, years ago. And I knew what it was supposed to feel like with riding with those guys and driving for them. So it was like, all right, it can't be that hard. And, a lot of times we would test boats at the shop, the smaller stuff, depending on because we did a lot of repowers and we did a lot of stuff with outboard. And it always seemed like it was me and one of the other guys doing the outboard stuff to just go test it and water test it and set it up before we gave it to the end user. And somehow or another, I just started there, I guess. But I don't know. My first race, I was 19, and I think it was 95 in San Juan, Puerto Rico, in a 46 skater in the open class.
Oh my gosh.
That was my first powerboat race. And I mean, it's kind of funny because everybody's like, what'd you start out in, like 24 or 28 skater? I'm like, no, it was a 46. That was my first race. And then I drove with my dad in a 4-engine 46 skater. which was an animal. I mean, all I was doing was hanging on for the wheel, but it was just an animal. That boat was just ungodly fast, run over what, I mean, it just mowed over whatever was in front of you. But so growing up, seeing all that and following my dad's footsteps, I guess, unfortunately, I hate to say it like this, I don't know anything else but boats, so I didn't really have a choice. And he tried to push me to go to college, and I think my thing was, Dad, why do I need to go to college? You're not going to teach me this stuff in college. Kind of every once in a while think, man, I would have probably been better off going to college, but life wouldn't have been as fun. I got to go, got to go a lot of cool places, do a lot of cool things, see a lot of things, meet a lot of cool people, great people because of the powerboats. So, like I said, life's good.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
And the trick is, right, everybody wants to grow up and be an F1 driver or a boat racer, right? But the trick is how to make a living and be able to commingle it. And obviously, you've picked the right path there. So,
for sure.
That's cool.
And, like with the boat sales and being in the boat business, you kind of got to wear many hats. I mean, there's times we're doing stuff in the shop as far as design work for other companies or, our own stuff. And setup or testing. And the rigging side of it, that's another hat. And then, I do some sales. I still have a broker's license in Florida. I do a lot of stuff. Myself and a buddy of mine, we have a blue water yacht. We do some stuff, sales stuff. And I actually don't talk about it a whole bunch, but I do some stuff for some military people with training. For like just trying to get them more accustomed, going faster, get them to try and teach them how to run the boats better and more efficient. Not just, hey, what number do I set the tabs? What number do I set the drives and just go for a boat ride type thing? And that we do, we haven't done it so much lately, but we actually have some stuff I think coming up in the next month or two where we'll go out with one of the big teams or clandestine teams, whatever you want to call it, and just spend a week with those guys running boats. And I like that kind of stuff, and I feel I guess I'm very patriotic, and I'm proud that I'm part of that, and I'm happy to do that. And my goal is, like I always tell those guys, I just want to make you guys the best you can be. That way, when you go and you're going to do your thing, whatever it is, you're not beat up when you get there.
Oh, gotcha.
So, I think that's what they're trying to get us to teach those guys, just how to be more efficient and just better. So don't beat the equipment and don't beat your guys up. And so, like I said, wear many hats. When you say what title, I'm sure they have a title for me outside. It's probably nothing nice sometimes, but I try to be easygoing. I mean, I'm always smiling, always, try to look at the bright side of things, but I wear many hats. Like I said, do the boat sales, do the racing, setup, design, testing, crash test dummy, whatever.
Yeah. So back to your dad. Was he really like the first throttle guy, or?
The way I understand it, and this was from him, he raced with a guy, Bill Wishnick, that his family owned Whitco Chemical, which was Emily Oil, Kendall Oil at the time. This was before I was born. And back then, you had a guy that he owned a boat. He would drive, throttle, trim, and you had a navigator, and they always had a riding mechanic. And because those races, they used to race like 200, 250 miles. So they were long races, and you were going to tear something up, and most time you could try to fix something, and, they always carried tool bags, extra hose, belts, or whatever. And he said Bill was a great guy, but he struggled with running the boat sometimes when it got kind of bumpy. He said because it was hard to drive, throttle, and trim and do everything at once. And he said to Bill one day, why don't you let me do the trim and the throttle and you just concentrate on keeping the boat straight and going forward? And he's like, yeah, let's try it. They tried it, and the first race they went to somewhere out in California, I don't know the exact place, but those races were hours long, they beat everybody second place by like 30 minutes or something crazy. And, after that, they went to another race out in California like 2 weeks later and kind of did the same thing. And that's when everybody started going, you know what, there's something to this. And everybody started adapting, where usually the riding mechanic was the guy that put the boat together and all that stuff. He knew the boat. He was now the throttle man. And the owner was usually just driving or whatever. And then you had, like I said, the navigator, because those checkpoints sometimes between some of those old courses were 15, 10, 20 miles away. So you kind of had to have somebody navigating for you, because you didn't have the GPSs and stuff like that you have now. And plus, nowadays, our courses are short enough for the spectator side of it. You can sit on one point of the course and see all the buoys usually. So you don't really have to have the GPS other than tell you how fast you're going. And you don't really need a navigator, so it's just two of us now. But that's how I was told the throttle man position kind of started. My dad did it. I don't remember what year. And it was just on a whim, let's try it. And they tried it, and Bill was like, man, it makes my life so much easier. So.
Yeah, I've never heard that one before. And you know what? I mean, that's from a guy. I mean, if you Google it, there's a lot of people out there say he's the best throttle man that ever was. So I guess coming from him, we can take that as law, right? And
yeah, I mean, honestly, like, even I've known Steve Curtis for years, and Johnny Tomlinson I grew up around because he was kind of like our competition with my dad's shop when they had TNT. And Johnny actually used to he'd call up and say, hey, I need to put a boat in the water. Can you come test with me? And Johnny will say, because your dad started it all way back when with that kind of stuff, doing the throttle position. And like I said, Steve Curtis I've known since I was probably 10 years old, because his dad was Cougar Marine, Cougar Powerboats. And my dad, they always dealt with his dad and stuff. So I just grew up around it, even though he's 10 years older than me. Got to race against him, race with him on the same team. And, but he always says, your dad started it all. He goes, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have jobs, so to speak.
Good way of looking at it. So, well, awesome. Yeah, thanks. That's cool hearing about him. That's a great story.
Thank you.
Hey, so, let's talk about Checkmate. So how'd that all go about? What are you guys up to there?
Checkmate's going pretty good. Biggest problem, we got a bunch of orders, which I shouldn't say it's a problem, but now we got to build them. But, so it's a lot of work. But at the end of the day, Checkmate's a lot of fun. In a couple aspects, most of the guys that are calling us and wanting to order boats in the dealer, man, they're a good group of guys. They love the boat. They love the brand. It's been around a long time, and it's almost like a cult following. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's guys are really into it, and, they like, especially now with the bigger, the boats originally were designed for the smaller two-stroke. And now with the bigger four-stroke, the heavier engine, bigger gear cases, we've had to do some modifications to make them handle a little better, which is the fun part. And guys are always, hey, what's this? What's that? I'm wanting to repower my older boat. What should I do? And, we get phone calls all the time like that. And they're a good group of guys. And Checkmate itself, it's just a fun brand. And I mean, we built one. It's a 24 BRX open bow with a 500, and we were running 90 miles an hour with the thing. I know we could get it go faster, but the goal was make it easy where just about anybody can get it and drive, and not make it to where, like myself or Sean Torrente or Johnny Tomlinson or Steve Curtis, where you have to be like a professional race boat driver to run at that speed. So our goal was set it up, get it where just about anybody that's had boating experience, especially in somewhat of a performance boat, can get in there and go enjoy it. And they're not looking at this number where, hey, I was told this thing run 90, but I can only get 81 out of it. The guy wants to know that it'll run 90, but he also wants to try and get it close to 90, and try to make it safe as possible. We had some setup stuff with the 500R the new gear case on that is pretty big. And with the shorter boat, smaller boat, lighter boat, it was kind of skiing around on the gear case, which that's just part of boat building. I mean, they make a design change for the reliability and the longevity of the engine and the gear case. It's up to us to adapt to it. So we did a few things that slowed the boat down, but it made it really controllable. And then we started creeping it back up to get the speed back out of it and not lose the ease of driving. And we actually went down to Lake X with that particular boat. And Roy Mitchell and those guys at Lake X, Mercury Racing, big help with us. And the owner, he's actually out of Jacksonville, Florida, so it worked out good. He was ecstatic at 90 because the boat's real controllable. It's not crazy, out of shape or like you're hanging on for dear life. And he's like, man, I'm good at 90. And we've talked about, we know we can get it to go faster. He's like, it's an open bow, 24 foot. How fast do we need to go in this thing? So
exactly. That's unbelievable. 90 miles an hour, a 24 open bow. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, it's a bow rider in a way. I mean, it's a sport bow rider, but it's still a bow rider, basically.
Yeah. That kind of sucks, though, because you probably had the things working really well with like the 400s, and then they come out with the 500, and you're like, dang it.
Well, I mean, it's like evolution. Everything, you get bigger power and things like that. I mean, the 400 boats we had pretty dialed. They were pretty easy, because the gear case was a lot smaller. And, once they went to the 500, like I said, they had to beef up the gear case, bigger gears, bigger prop shaft. So that's just part of us having to adapt and evolve with the engine program. Like we've had a couple older boats when Pete acquired Checkmate a couple years ago come through that needed some stuff done and with the 2-strokes. And those boats were really fast. But not saying they were great, bad, or some of them were kind of sketchy when they were fast, which that's kind of fun also. But, at the end of the day, we're looking like, what can we do to make the boat easier for the end user to drive? That way it's not that number that he can see on the recall on the GPS or the tattletale GPS speedo dial and say, man, I can't get nowhere near that. Because then what happens, he gets frustrated and he starts taking chances or something goofy, and then, something bad happens. So our goal with Checkmate, build a cool looking boat, make some updates, make it fast, but make it where generally a lot of people can run it and have a good time.
Yeah, I think it's a great formula. Definitely. And from the, owner of a boat company too, keep the possibility of incidents down and keep people happy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I've had people, and I kind of came up with this when we go to boat shows and you're sitting there with something performance boat. It might be 170 mile an hour performance boat, pleasure boat. They're like, what's the cruise speed? I'm like, when everybody is still smiling. Because that's the reality. If if I tell them, well, you can cruise it at 140. Well, if everybody's hanging on for dear life at 140, you've exceeded the cruise speed.
Right.
Let's face it. I mean, so you got to make it where everybody's enjoying it.
Oh, that's a good one. But Checkmate's always been like a really cool sporty lines. And so you get like a lot of legacy people, you get a lot of people on their second, third, fourth one.
Oh yeah. I mean, we get phone calls with people. I've had a Checkmate here, there, blah, blah, blah. And they go down the list of what years they had and, they're really into it. And like we did some updates. We've changed on the 24 and we're redoing the 21 and we're also doing a 26 inboard boat, the Convincer. But we did on the 24, that seems like our best seller and seems to work really well. Instead of the old frame windshield, we're making a frameless windshield, wrap around it. Still has the walkthrough, which that's kind of difficult to do the frameless and have a walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
But we made a change in the mold where we have a flange where we make our own windshield in-house. We kind of hand built a makeshift oven and started playing with polycarbonate and acrylic and just getting it to bend with our own molds and fitting it to the boat. It's a little time consuming, but at least we control like hey, we need a windshield for next week.
Absolutely.
We start on it this week and we have it for next week. It's not we're calling somebody and, oh, we're 8 weeks backed up or we don't have material and it's going to be 3 weeks. We just order our own material. We have a pallet of it. And when we need to make a windshield, we just make it. But it changed the look of the boat with the frameless windshield. And, you know, I think 98% of the people that are in the Checkmate like the frameless windshield. They're like, man, it just changed the look of the boat. It still has the really good line, but it just makes it look newer. And it's a big update. And you're always going to have like one or two guys, man, I don't know. I like the frame. You changed the look of the boat too much.
Yeah.
You can't make everybody happy, but I think it just made the boat look a lot more updated. You know, you don't buy a Mustang from 68 and try to make it look like a 2024, but at the same time, you don't want all the Mustangs to look like they did in 68 because why would you buy a new one?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm just throwing a Mustang out there. Not that I drive a sports car or anything. I drive a pickup truck. I'm a truck guy.
Really?
Yeah. F-250, single wheel.
I would have never guessed.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm pretty low key at home. Like I tell everybody, you know, there's a professional side boat race, Billy Moore, and then when I come home, I'm just Billy. Come home, drive just a red F-250, nothing crazy, nothing wild, and probably running 60, 65, going back and forth to work, nothing crazy. But they always say when I get out of the race boat, don't let me drive for a couple hours. I guess I'm still
really
like in race mode, wound up. So everybody's like, no, we'll drive. I guess I'm still amped up, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Hey, so when I heard you on another podcast where you were talking about Checkmate, I think you brought up that you guys were working on, or you're thinking about coming out here, bringing a boat out to the Parker Enduro.
Yes, we want to try and do that, but lately we've been, I don't want to say we've been sidetracked, but we got to make some money so we can pay for all this stuff. But yeah, we want to do a 21 to bring out there to Parker Enduro. That's the goal. We're trying. It's just, like I said, I hate to say it, work gets in the way sometimes of fun.
Sure.
But that's what pays the bills. So, you know, unfortunately, we all have to work sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not all fun.
Yeah, no question. Well, and you got a pretty full fun schedule as it is, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, like this past month we went to Italy for an XCAT race with Mike Falco with the Defalco team. A couple of us went over there and checked out an XCAT race. And it was kind of like a vacation, and then a race broke out, but it was a lot of fun. Went over there, had a good time. Came back home. I think I was home a week and a half. Went to Ocean City, Maryland, Ocean City, Maryland. No. Take that back. That was before we went to Italy. We went to Ocean City, Maryland. And then we went to Michigan City with the Super Cat with Graydel. And then the following week was Sheboygan. So it's like this weekend, there's nothing planned. I'm going to try not to leave my yard, so to speak. I got a small farm, nothing crazy, but Eastern North Carolina, I think we're like a little over 30 acres. I'm going to just try and do stuff around the house and not leave the farm.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, that stuff adds up fast, right? When you're not home for 2-3 weekends.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I think we were actually in Italy. I was gone probably 13, 14 days, and you figure, you know, you come home, then you got a couple days that you're trying to get caught up just from being over there, and then you getting things caught up here at the race shop, and then here at Caldwell, and just make sure, you know, Graydel's on track for its next race. It's a lot of work, and yeah, sometimes it's nice to just have a weekend where you don't. I mean, I hate to say it, I have 2 boats at home. There's times I don't even want to see the boats in the yard.
Yeah. Well, so there's still like a slight chance you make it to Parker this year, or is it out of the question for this year?
I'm not saying it's out of the question. It's just lately we've had so much going on, and we've had a few big projects in the shop that we were trying to get concentrated and get finished up. We would love to try and make Parker. I don't want to count it out 100% by any means, but I don't want to say 100% we're going to be there this year. It's just, unfortunately, we get caught up with other stuff in the shop that we have to get done.
Yeah. Well, it would just be really cool to see you guys out there, some East Coast guys, different faces. It'd be really cool.
100%. And I've never done an endurance race like that. I think it would be a lot of fun to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we'll cross our fingers. Maybe if not this year, next year.
Oh, 100%. We'll definitely be trying to go out there. And I think it'd be a lot of fun just because that's a whole nother side of racing. I've never met those guys. I think it'd be fun just to go meet guys out there on the West Coast that do that type of endurance race and then just that type of racing. I think it'd just be a lot of fun to meet people. I'm a people person, I guess. I mean, when I go home, sometimes I kind of introvert, but meeting new people like that, I think it's fun. I think it'd be a great time going out there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Well, hopefully it works out. It'd be cool. So you got a farm. What's something else about Billy Moore that people would be surprised to know about?
What is surprising that people, I don't really know. I mean, like I said, I'm really laid back at home. I do like to exercise, which sometimes I haven't done it lately in the last couple of months because it seems like I've been so busy. But normally, my normal day, I get up early, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I got a little garage gym. Just makes it easier, but it also makes it easier not to go because it's like, I'll just stay. I'll do it tonight, and tonight never happened. Get up in the morning, exercise, take a quick shower, eat a quick breakfast, head to work, go by the race shop, come to Caldwell. I don't know. I'm pretty laid back in my personal life, I guess. I'm actually engaged. I don't have a date set on when I'm going to get married.
Oh, nice.
I hate to say it. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it. I just haven't had the time to just say, hey, let's just pick a date. And, you know what I mean? And it'll probably be like something really low key anyways. But I don't know. I don't really know what's surprising I don't know.
Yeah.
You got me on that one. You got me stumped.
Well, you do definitely seem, like I said, I saw you on another podcast and I really like the fact that you just seem down to earth and you probably that's just who you are. You are who you are. That's very cool.
Yeah, man. I mean, I always look at it. We all put our pants on the same, one leg at a time. Some guys might be better at certain things than the other, but hey, I have my downfalls. I might be okay at running a boat. Sometimes I feel like I do all right. And then sometimes I'm like, what in the world am I doing over here? But, there's a lot of things I'm not great at.
Well, the stuff you're good at, you're pretty darn good at it. So, and congratulations on the engagement. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool to find a woman that could put up with the racing and the boat. A boat industry schedule, right? It can be crazy.
Oh, trust me. I mean, it is tough because I'm gone all the time. And when we come home from Key West, it's like, hey, babe, I know you traveled a lot this year, but would you want to do a vacation? I'm like, my idea of vacation is going to the couch.
Right.
But no, it is kind of tough. And she's a good girl and she gets it. And I mean, like I told her when we were just meeting, going on the first date, hey, this is what I do. I travel a lot. You're always welcome to come. If you don't want to go, I get it. But I'm always gone. I'm always going somewhere, always doing something. And when I'm home, I like to be home, so, and she gets it. She's like, yeah, I'm good with it. So either she's got to put up with it or she'll be like, see ya.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Cool. Well, awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time. Anything else you want to tell people about Checkmate? We can, what's the next boat show? Where can they see stuff or?
We haven't done a whole lot of big boat shows. It just all depends. Actually, Tim Tynes out of Tynes Marine in Wisconsin, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, he does a big show every year up at his place. Instead of going to the Milwaukee show, he does a big deal out at his place there. He's got a beautiful facility, and he always has us come up there for that kind of stuff, which he's a great guy, a lot of fun. And he's been a Checkmate dealer from way back. New stuff, like I said, we're trying to get a 26 condenser inboard boat set up, and we want to build a bigger outboard boat, twin engine outboard boat. You know, the 24 has been a good seller, but I think there's guys that want something a little bigger and stick with the outboards. I mean, outboards is just the maintenance side, the convenience, the ease of use. The outboard seems to be the craze right now. Funny, I do like the big inboard stuff, raced it, you know, etc. But it's nice going boating with just outboards. It's nice and quiet. And when you get back, it's not a ton of work to clean everything up. It's just simple. So I think that's one reason. And just the maintenance side of the outboard, I think that's why the outboard stuff has jumped up the last 5-10 years. The outboard business has just gone through the roof. But for us, Checkmate, you know, just keep making improvements. And we do want to build a few more models. And you know, like I said, I know we want to do something a little bit bigger than a 26, but as a twin outboard setup, you know, twin 300s. Of course, there's going to be somebody who says, "Can you do twin 500s?" Yes, I'm sure we can.
Yeah, you might as well just do that out of the gate, right? You know it's going there.
Yeah, it's going to happen. So, like you said, instead of ordering 300, let's just order 5s. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah. So, well, great. That's awesome. Good you got involved in that, and good it's going well. So, I think it's Class F1 on Instagram. If you go on there, they do great interviews and stuff. You can always see what's going on with the racing. And then P1 is probably the main circuit race with the Super Cat boat, right?
Yes, APBA and P1 been working pretty good together. The Class 1 stuff is mainly P1. Super Cat kind of picked their own schedule with APBA and P1 stuff. And it's been great. I mean, this year's it's a lot of work, but it running with 2 different teams, but both teams are great to work with. You know, the Graydel guys, that boat's based out of Fort Myers. Southern Marine RV is the actual shop. It's an offshoot kind of from Raymond Roberts with Double R Performance out of Canada, and got a real good group of guys down there. And, you know, whenever we want to test, jump on a plane, fly to Fort Myers, hang out for a couple days, run the boat, enjoy Fort Myers, Cape Coral area. It's a lot of fun. Good group of guys. And, you know, with the Defalco stuff being right here, it makes it a lot easier. So when we do go to the events, jumping from boat to boat, I've been in Graydel so much, it's like, you know, my glove, putting on a regular work glove, you know how it feels. And Defalco the same, because I'm in it all the time. So can't complain. Like I said, running both Super Cat and Class 1, most of the races do kind of coordinate with themselves. So that just, you know, every once in a while, like we had Michigan City Class 1 wasn't there. So it's just a Super Cat. There's only actually a couple of the Super Cats went there, but still was a fun weekend. You know, and like you said, P1, APBA, that's Class 1 website, best way to find information on the boats and the teams and what we're doing.
Yep. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. We got all the
Yes,
technical stuff worked out and schedule. So I can't believe I got an hour slice out of you out of the middle of the day. That's pretty good. Feel pretty privileged.
No, man, it was actually, today, I hate to say it, like it's usually Fridays we try to make it somewhat easy, but some Fridays are just chaos. And this morning was just chaos. And then finally I was out on one of the boats and we had like a vendor here looking at like the upholstery, and he's asking me a million questions and I trying to get it done. And finally I said, look, I got to go on to get it on the Zoom podcast call real quick.
Oh, thank you.
Just give me an hour or so.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. But
not a problem.
Thanks, man. Hey, great talking to you. I really appreciate it. We'll keep our eyes on you and best of luck for the rest of the season. Hope we see you in Parker. That'd be awesome.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Billy. Take care.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to Powerboat Talk. If you like what you've heard, please head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. For more Powerboat Talk, follow us on Facebook or Instagram, or visit our website at powerboattalk.com.